Hello and welcome to the Mikko Bits show, and I am your host, Mikko Bits. I have an exciting show for you. Kosala Hemachandra, who is CEO and founder of the famous MyEtherWallet. So, if you've been involved in the space for a while, you've probably had a MyEtherWallet. So, it's absolutely one of the most famous wallets in the space. So, before we start, just a quick disclosure, this is information and entertainment purposes only. It is not investment advice. So, please, if we do mention anything that you can buy, Ethereum or ERC-20 or anything else under the sun, don't take it as investment advice. So, before we start, if you're interested in Bitcoin and blockchain, please consider clicking that subscribe button and also click the bell so you can get notifications about future videos that I might post. Thank you. Okay, without further ado, it's Kosala. Hey, welcome.
Hey Mikko, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Super excited to talk to you. You're definitely a legend in the world of cryptographic assets. You've developed, absolutely key infrastructure for the Ethereum community. So, obviously grateful to you for, building this infrastructure. It's such an important component to have. And, users really need this kind of technology to be successful. So, real hats off to you. You've done it a tremendous service for the community. So, so tell us a little bit about how you got interested in the whole blockchain world. Like, what's your origin story, your superhero?
Yeah, that's a great story. But before that, thank you so much for those kind words about my wallet and myself. Really appreciate it. So it goes all the way back to like my college days during my senior year, basically. I started to read. So my background is in computer engineering. So while I was doing my degree during my senior year, I got into Bitcoin and like try to understand the concept behind it, like how it works. I mean, I did hear about Bitcoin in 2009 or so, but like most of us, I thought it was a scam, and then just like
Sure.
it didn't even get into my head at that time.
Yeah.
And and then it was that, and then I like started reading about Bitcoin, and this is an interesting story because I actually bought a Bitcoin miner. It was
Great.
it was about like back then it was about $1,600 or something.
Wow.
I
That's
know
a big commitment for like,
it was a big commitment
because you're like, what is this? I don't, I want to see, right? So
No, I mean, I have to say before that, I like did my research and it just like clicked so much in my head. I wanted to get in. So it was a huge investment back then.
Yeah.
And got into it, but I was living at a room. So I was renting a room at that time because I was going to school, and then I was also working full time. And so I had this Bitcoin miner in my room. And for people who are not familiar with a Bitcoin miner, it generates so much heat. Like it's basically a heater. If you have it in your room, it's just gonna like heat up the whole
Yeah,
room.
yeah. Actually, this is a comment that Satoshi Nakamoto made, right? Which is if
Oh, all
you,
the way back
yeah,
then.
absolutely. So I got this information from something called the Book of Satoshi, and it's a book that really just accumulates all of Satoshi's emails and his postings on the early forum and on the email lists and things. And he said that it's likely that Bitcoin mining is going to go towards the poles because it's going to heat people's rooms, and he basically said that it'll be cheaper because then you don't need a heater. Whereas on the equator, it's actually going to cost you more because you're going to need more air conditioning, right? So he basically, but the thing to me that I really liked about this comment of Satoshi is that it really seemed clear that he was focused at the time on kind of consumer retail mining. Like he was interested in like just normal people like yourself. So I mean, you're like the perfect. I don't know where you were living at the time, but but
That's even more interesting because at the time I was in San Fernando Valley, and for people who are not familiar with the valley, it gets like 100 degrees
it's
Fahrenheit
hot.
easily. So now imagine me running a Bitcoin miner inside a room
Oh,
in
wow.
like outside it's 100 degrees.
That's
So
amazing.
and the air conditioner that I had in my room was like really old too. It was barely working. Somehow it just managed to keep it to a level that's survivable. I just barely
That's
survived
so
in that
great.
room. I know
They're fighting
such
each
a
other, right? The miner and the
I
air
know
conditioner are fighting each other. That's amazing.
such an interesting time. And on top of that, here's the good part, the advantage I had because of that is so I was paying a static amount, meaning like it was rent, so I didn't have to pay anything extra for electricity or anything. So I was basically running the miner, and so the amount that I earned from the miner was enough to cover my rent at that place.
Wow. That's substantial. That's pretty good. But that's so crazy. That's so crazy
If,
because but did you just sell it and then pay rent, or did you actually do that?
base,
Or,
yeah,
wow.
basically. So that yeah, that was a cool time. I mean, I'm not gonna say I was able to continue this for years. It probably only lasted for about like 4 to 5 months. And you know how the difficulty in Bitcoin gets exponential and it increased, and it was like getting to all-time high back then. Like Bitcoin was trying going like within a year or two from that, the time I was talking about, it hit all-time high. So everything was going through the roof back then. So I was only able to do it for like maybe 4 or 5 months.
Do you
But
feel
hey, it
like do you,
helped.
that's so amazing. Do you feel like kind of Laszlo and the like two pizzas for 10,000 bitcoins? Do you feel a bit like that?
Because um uh kinda, but like then again, if I didn't do the next step, which was getting into Ethereum because of Bitcoin, then there won't be a money wallet.
Oh,
So
I
it's
love
like
it. I love it. I love it. That's
so
beautiful
it
philosophy.
goes
Thank you.
both ways. Yeah, it goes both ways. So because of that, because I got into Bitcoin and like was doing all this, I was looking into like, okay, what are the other things? What are other technologies out there? And surprisingly, around the same time, Vitalik and Gavin released the yellow paper for Ethereum, and I read it. I all like honestly probably only understood 40% of it back then, and probably maybe even less actually. But that was enough for me to understand. Okay, this will be a game changer. This is going to take blockchain to the next level. And ever since then, I was really into Ethereum. Ethereum was like nothing. It was just a concept, and I got into pre-sale, and then I was like on top of all the Ethereum development, like testnets, and I got into smart contract development during the testnet period for Ethereum, and then created a like a gas faucet contract where people can the testers can use that faucet to get test ETH out and then do continue to test and like brute force and uh, basically trying to DDoS, like do anything to break Ethereum. So that was an interesting time. And after the mainnet release, I started to see a whole bunch of new issues that people are facing, which are sending transactions and even unlocking their wallet. So it was, like that was all Ethereum could do back then, just like value transfers. And people were struggling to do that as well because there was only command line, and I knew this technology or like how it works behind my back. Like I knew how to do it, and I was like, okay, I can put together a small interface, I can put together a small UI, and publish it, make it open source so that people can verify the code and make sure like I'm not stealing, I'm not a fisher trying to steal their funds.
Yeah.
And then I published it. It was definitely there was some like lot of skeptics back then about like, hey, I'm not gonna upload my keystore file or pre-sale wallet to your site. I barely know you. I don't even know who you are. And then I was like, okay, hey, like that's the code. If like it's the exact same code that runs on your browser, so you can verify the code and check and make sure this works. And like that, those skeptics later on like realize, hey, okay, this is a good feature, this is something that can help us, and more people started to use it. Basically, MyEtherWallet grew with Ethereum, and here we are.
That's great. That's so amazing. And yeah, you know, I guess it's having worked, you know, with Vitalik and you know, Gavin since kind of the early times. I guess, you know, what I'd love to do is just kind of get a quick take on what your feeling is about Polkadot. You know, obviously the newest Gavin project. I newest is
Yeah,
kind of a stupid thing to say. You know, I mean they've been working on it for a
it's
while,
for a while.
it's getting exciting now. And then you know, obviously we'll come back to Ether being the king. So tell me more.
Yeah, like good question. And to be honest, I haven't been like on top of Polkadot development, but hey, it's coming from a great developer like Gavin and Vitalik are basically the two founders, the founders of Ethereum, and both of them are amazing. So Vitalik is continuing to work on Ethereum, and Gavin is starting Polkadot, or like founded Polkadot and working on that. And uh, I'm like, if I have to make an assumption, I'm pretty sure it'll be an amazing project. It'll be uh
So
like
there's
helping.
no my dot wallet. Is it, that one's not in the
Hey,
plans.
hey, I get asked this question a lot. It's not just for like my DOT wallet, or like I get asked, hey, where's my Bitcoin wallet? Like it doesn't
Yes.
exist for a Bitcoin either. You know, like there are multiple wallets out there, but we have a loyal customer or user base, which are like now we have like Mu is a trusted, very like trusted brand in Ethereum, and they want to use a new product in Bitcoin space and other blockchain space. So we do get asked that question a lot, and when it's ready, definitely like I have, like I said, didn't do much research on Polkadot. I'll be like totally honest with you, but it doesn't mean that I will never get into Polkadot. Like it's possible that I will do research, and probably in the future there might be a my DOT wallet.
That's okay. Thank you for that. That's a great
Yeah,
comment. Obviously, a bit of a distraction because I think the biggest attraction in the world is like the Ethereum blockchain and, of course, Ether, right? And so, to me, you know, you can't talk about Ethereum today without talking about DeFi. So I would love to hear kind of some of your thoughts and you know have a discussion about DeFi.
around DeFi. Yeah. So I think it's getting a lot of media attraction. Like Ethereum is getting out there because of DeFi. Like everyone's talking about DeFi, and Ethereum is leading that. And obviously, there are some other blockchains out there as well who are working on DeFi projects, but it's not as good, or it's not as out there as Ethereum. So Ethereum is basically taking it to the next level. Basically, DeFi, like it started with Bitcoin. Like that's my opinion. DeFi application is Bitcoin because that's what did the decentralized value transfer, and it created this momentum. It created this. It took the first step towards what we are seeing now. So it's definitely not a brand new technology. It's just the technology to do it didn't exist in Bitcoin, and technology to accomplish it started with Ethereum, and Ethereum has that technology to take DeFi to the next level. So yeah, it's like from 2017 with like the ICO boom, right? Uh, Basically, everyone was talking about Ethereum because of the ICOs in 2017, and unfortunately it didn't go the way we wanted it to go. Like a lot of authorities got involved in the whole process and like started to take down every single project, and it's basically killing innovation in my opinion. But hey, like because of that, we learned so many things. We learned how to move forward. We learned how to navigate this centralized, like the waters where all the centralized authorities are the crocodiles, right? We're trying to like go through it and then figure out how to navigate and get to the next side. And that's basically what's happening with like DeFi nowadays, because everything is not like the tokens that they're issuing cannot be considered as securities. So they are basically governance tokens. And things like that. It's just what we learned in 2017 definitely helped us to get to where we are in 2020 or 2019. I think that's where like the DeFi started to happen. Really, like DeFi became a term, and now we have like think about doing this, right? Like think about, let's say you anonymously going to Wells Fargo and giving a collateral and taking a 1 million or like a cash loan and immediately withdrawing it and doing it completely anonymously. It's not going to happen. It's not even possible without doing KYC.
Sure.
But that's what DeFi can do now. Like you can basically put your collateral to, let's say, $1 million worth of ETH into Compound, and then take USDT or like some stable coin out of Compound, and then go buy a house. And you can do all this up to buying the house within seconds or like within a minute. And it wasn't possible. Like a year ago or like 2 years ago, it wasn't possible. It wasn't even a thing. And you are doing everything completely anonymously. And even there are like people who are willing to sell houses directly for stable coins,
Yes.
or like for cryptos.
Sure.
So you don't even have to go through a bank. You don't have to like actually do a mortgage or anything. You can just like find one of these people and get your house, and everything will happen anonymously from outside world, except like obviously you and the buyer, the seller needs to meet. But that's basically what DeFi is. And you can also like, and then think about all the people who are lending these, right? They're earning passive income without doing anything. And just imagine you trying to do the same thing with a bank. Like basically banks are not like giving you like fraction of a percentage in interest, but they're charging the borrowers like a huge interest, and they are the people who are making money, and at the end the lenders are not making any money. So we're changing that. We're changing the whole dynamic, and we are getting into a space where finally the power goes back to the people and there are no middlemen involved.
Yeah, so I think that there's two things that I'm hearing from your sort of opinion, and I feel like one of the things that's really, I think I'm very excited about is I'm very excited about this idea of disintermediation, right? Because if you go back to Satoshi's white paper, right, it's clear, right? The second sentence is that the majority of the benefits are lost if there's a dependence on a third-party intermediary, right? So he's very clear about this idea of what are the benefits of what he calls a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, right? So for him, it's very much like the benefits are that there's no intermediary, right? And I mean, there's no requirement for trust in an intermediary. Like there are still intermediaries, there's nodes, right? So I mean, he's not saying there isn't one. He's just saying that you don't have to trust those, right? And that the thing that's interesting is that, in a way, there's two dimensions to the Bitcoin network. Like I call the Bitcoin network like the bank of the internet owned by the users. And the thing that's funny, and what's funny about it is that if you think about it as a bank, right? Like Bitcoin is in some ways it's a bit like a savings bank, only that it's almost like equity and not interest, right? So in the sense that if you store money there, then if the bank is doing really well at storing people's money, then you're the beneficiary because your holdings kind of get more valuable as more and more users agree to use that system, right? So that's kind of neat. So I'm in favor because there's no bank shareholders that aren't users. Right, like there's not, you know what I mean? Like you can't just be like, I'm greedy and I just want to own the stock and I just want to suck profits away from the users, So I love that mindset you're sharing. The thing that I'm curious about is your attitude towards kind of the anonymity side, because that to me is sort of like complicated, right? Because obviously there's, in the U.S. there's FinCEN, and there are concerns about, money laundering and terrorism financing, and so like these to me those are legitimate concerns, and obviously there are people's legitimate concerns also about privacy, so I guess my question is like how do we make a world where these concerns are all held in balance and we have kind of fairness for everyone?
That's a great question. So basically, I mean, like any technology that you invent or you create or you use can be used in an evil manner. Like that's my opinion towards that.
Sure.
So it's like, yeah, you can, I mean, of course there are guns, right? And then of course there are like people who, use it for their own private safety. And then there are people who use it for malicious purposes.
Yes.
So, and also like Ethereum or like there are privacy coins, like for example Monero, which is like completely private, and there's no way to track you or like see where the funds came from, anything.
Yes.
So already there are blockchains and technologies that can achieve 100% transfer or like 100% privacy for the user. So where I'm heading with that is, so DeFi or like in blockchain or Ethereum, there are some like smart contracts and there are some development around private coins and having like 100% privacy to the user. But at the end of the day, if you want to do something completely like unknown privately right now, you have to either use one of these services, but if not, it really doesn't work in Ethereum, because like at the end, there's always a way to track where the funds came from.
Yeah.
Unless you're a miner, right? You mine the blocks and then you use that funds to fund something illegal. So that's always like right now. You can always go back and then see that point where the funds generated.
Sure.
So if there's a like authority or FinCEN or someone who wants to see whether a specific person, whether a transaction is suspicious, they're already building tools around it. And there are like crypto companies that are selling tools to these organizations to make sure like some of these funds are trackable and they can detect unusual patterns. So that's happening already. But like think about the privacy needs of a user. So sometimes it's not about like doing illegal things. It's just about doing what you want to accomplish without having to involve a third person or without having involved or without announcing it to the whole world. You just want to accomplish that task privately. And that's part of bringing the power back to the people that I really like. I really like. It's like at the end of the day, you have to, because we are right now giving power to third parties. And for example, like there are companies that hit $2 trillion valuation.
Apple.
Like recently, I know I didn't want to mention it, but like it's like, yeah, it's Apple. But like, yeah, and think about it's because they are like taking advantage of the users, and they are obviously creating products, but at the same time they're taking advantage of the users and creating a dynamic where like having an Apple phone is the coolest thing to do. So it's like it's not necessarily true, right? Like you have to have an environment where people can review, make sure, okay, which is best for me, which will work in long term, which is which might help me to accomplish the task that I want to accomplish.
Sure.
So unnecessary, like, so you don't have to really like look at an ad or TV marketing or something along those lines and see, oh, okay, like that's what I need, even though that's not what I need. And so that's where we have to be. That's where we should be going forward. We have to bring, we have to make users understand, okay, your private information are yours to own. It's not someone else to own. If you decide, okay, but at the end of the day, there are other ways to find illegal actors. and not necessarily money, like where the money went on the money transmission, the money trail.
Yeah.
It's just one way. So if you find, okay, there's an illegal person, or like someone's doing an illegal action, you can always use the other methods, get them and figure out like where's the money trail is, and then detect who funded it or where the money came from, and all these other things. And it's not necessarily the way to detect an illegal actor.
Yeah, that sounds fine. So with respect to going back to DeFi, like, how do you see the evolution, right? Because I feel like now we've got these kind of base protocols, right? So we've got these really serious base protocols. I would say that like Compound, like Aave, like, I had Stani on my show as well from Aave. We have these really kind of, obviously Maker, like Rune, and, so we have these things, and we have other ones too, like, Synthetics, like we have some really interesting new protocols coming out. But I guess for me, Curve, Balancer, these types of things. But I guess, on top of that, now there's kind of really new novel protocols coming out, obviously like, Wi-Fi, and now, and maybe even more kind of like, higher up ones like, like Cream or, Based, or these kinds of funny ones. So, Yams. So I guess
my favorite is Yam.
Yeah, you like the Yams. That's great. I'm glad
it just came and disappeared in like days.
It did, but like it looks like Yams are back, right? Because it looks like
is it? I didn't read anything along on that yet. So they're back.
I feel like Yams is really right now crossing over from, I think, from Farmville to more like reality television. Like that's so it's a really funny. It's a funny crossover show. So I'm watching the Yams show. It's I think the I think Netflix renewed them for season 2. So now there's like a Yam season 2 coming. So I think you can change your Yams in for Yam 2. I think the ratio is something like 2 to 3 or 3 to 2 or something like that. So it means that this ungovernable Yam network is actually, going to, the people who are the initial holders are not going to be completely out in the cold, right? Like they're actually going to get some new value in Yam 2. So anyhow, not a deep dive, but would love to kind of get your take on these, and the evolution of this whole network and the ecosystem.
Yeah. This might be a little controversial, but I believe that right now DeFi is overhyped, and it's just like everyone wants to have the make quick money. Everyone wants to like dump money like wherever they see that will make them more.
You mean you're not farming spaghetti?
No, I'm only farming noodles these days.
Pasta, spaghetti. Pasta. That's great. No, I mean, you were one of the early Bitcoin miners, right? So because you were early mining in Bitcoin, like the thing that becomes really interesting is to try to understand your attitude, right? So it doesn't seem like you're chasing kind of the Tower of Babel, or you're chasing like this based protocol or any of this kind of new stuff. Like it doesn't entrance you. You're not
no, unfortunately not. Because I'm a person who like give it some time and then see how well it's doing. Like I take calculated risks. Like I do take risks, but it's calculated. I want to make sure, at least I want to be confident on what the risks I'm taking. So especially like, that's why I said, okay, Yam is like one of my favorites, because like it just, even the developers, like everyone, well, to be honest, developers did not lie. They said, okay, this is totally an experiment. Like they developed it in 10 days and then released it as an experiment. And this is why I call everything like the current DeFi system is overhyped, is because the experiment was able to achieve or have almost $500 million worth of tokens.
Yes.
And this is an experiment, and that went wrong. And I know they're like, you mentioned they're coming up with Yam too. So this is what triggers like inside me, okay, anything that can create value, or like anything where people just jump in, there might be a risk. Like people are not understanding the risk of these quick money, or like farming, or making opportunities, quick money making opportunities. It's you can always go for stable ones like Aave, Compound. Like they've been there for a while, and like why not I know why not use them, right? Like just go for stable income. Like you don't want quick money. You don't you want to take, like, calculate your risk, do your research, and get into something that feels confident. If it sounds too good to be true, it, like, you probably wouldn't do it in the real world. Like if someone come to you and be like, okay, I'll give me like $1, I'll give you $100 tomorrow, you'll be like, no, I'm not even going to give you $1. So, but like, why are you doing it in a crypto world?
The other day,
So,
Barack Obama on Twitter told me if
yeah.
I send him 2 Bitcoins, if I send him a Bitcoin, he would send me 2 Bitcoins.
Oh, wow. Did you do it, Mikko? You should do it. It's Barack Obama. I'm pretty sure he's not lying.
That's great. Yeah, he's he's been pretty honest. So I thought I got very excited about this. No, but I agree with you. I think that I like your perspective, right? To me the thing that's fascinating about this is that like there's one of the things that's evolved out of like DeFi. It's so important is that people are playing with this concept, right? And one of the things
Yeah.
that's so funny about DeFi to me is that there's an element of it that is actually about being defiant, right? Like the word
Defiant.
DeFi like actually is a real English word, and it just means like you're defying, right? Like you're like
Oh,
f you, like like they're and
yeah.
the thing that's funny about what's happening with some of these kind of money games
Mm-hmm.
is it feels like there's sort of like this weird money trauma that's being played out, right? That people are kind of like putting their middle finger towards the system, right? Like they're like, oh, your
Mm.
centralized money is like this kind of crap game that you mess with people, and we're gonna have our game and we're gonna mess with people too, and so it just becomes this kind of very weird kind of emotional and maybe like trauma kind of therapy, right? Where people are playing games, money games, and in a way they're
Mm.
just spinning their wheels, right? But they're kind of like doing these weird activities just to kind of feel like they're releasing themselves from the rules of like centralized finance. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
that's a funny view, but I feel like some people are doing
Um,
that because they're just kind of they just feel like rebellious, like they feel like oh well, this
yeah.
is what I think about you and your money.
No, I see. I definitely see your point. This is like one way I look at crypto community and like crypto world is also by looking at the real world. I mean, obviously, in real world there are bad actors who wants to
Many,
make
yes.
use of make use of funds and like trick them into scamming them and all that.
Yeah.
So and it's definitely going to exist in crypto world as well. It's not like we didn't change. Humans didn't change. Like we have a new technology, and instead of using it for our advantage, we there are also people, there will be bad actors who will use it to their advantage,
Yeah.
not think about the whole, like, the community.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I really want to emphasize, if it's too good to be true, it's probably it's not good.
Yeah.
So think, do your research, see where it's headed. Like look at the developers, see who's behind it, see whether they're real people, and see how long that smart contract or like the DeFi system was running, and see who audited it, and see whether it's believable or acceptable, and and then jump in, and then so basically, yeah, jump in and then check how deep it is, and then jump in. So that's my advice to people on these DeFi projects. It's yeah, it's cool. It's a cool concept, and I definitely know DeFi has a future, and DeFi will move towards that. But right now, it's overhyped.
Yes, yes. I like that. And I like the perspectives, and I think, I had Mark Jeffrey on, and he was talking about how uh, he really made a strong kind of a bet on Wi-Fi, and it was
Mm-hmm.
because of Andre, the developer, right? So he really kind of spent a lot of time kind of trying to understand the person, and he really had a strong feeling about this person, and so I think there's some validity, and I think it really reinforces what you say, which is, like, pay attention to, who's behind it, and try to
Yeah.
understand, like, what are they doing and why are they doing it, and like how good are they at doing things, like those are all super important, right? Like, obviously you can't just like throw money. I think the one of the biggest problems that's happening now is that it's moving so fast that people don't, like, in a way it's turned into a game of like, I don't know. It's almost like a game where somebody like is trying to slap your hands, and you're trying to like pull your hands away, right? It's becoming a game where
Yeah.
it's super fast, and like somebody's trying, and then you go, oh, I got my hand slapped, and so it's
Yeah.
just turning into a game where it's like it's super fast, right? And like nobody has time to understand a thing, and so they're just looking at the surface, and they're like, oh, like I want to put money over there because it looks shiny, and I don't understand
Yeah.
it, but I'm just gonna do it, and the system right now is like weirdly rewarding that kind of activity, and I think that, that can't, that can't last forever.
Yeah, definitely cannot. And I totally agree with you. People are trying to ride the next wave. Like waves are coming in. They're like, I want to catch that wave. I want to catch that wave too. Oh my gosh, there's another wave that I want to catch. So instead of, it's like it's so people. That's where and definitely there's a motivation behind it. People like other. No, I'm not saying like these DeFi projects, all of them are bad actors or like developers are bad, but there's also like marketing force like Twitter force or like Twitter crypto Twitter, like everything is behind it, like pushing
Yeah.
the whole community towards it, like so they don't, like people who are new, people who are brand new don't get a chance to see what this project is about or where it's headed and how it actually generates the revenue that it's promising to give to the users. So but it's, I mean, it's just like the real world. You have to do your research when you get
Right.
into crypto world. Like, please do your research, and at the end, at least, like if you do your research, you can, even if you lose money. And I mean, I lost money in investments in the
Yeah.
past.
Everybody
It,
has.
it, it happens. It's not like no one's like perfect. It's not like you're perfect. If you do the research, you'll still lose money, but at least deep down you can accept yourself and be like, okay, I did the research, I invested because of that, I thought it is a good opportunity, but I mean it didn't turn out to be a good opportunity. So I can at least like feel good about myself.
I think the
So
other thing that I think you're pointing to that I like about is that another dimension is really kind of like, what do you want to support, right? Is another
mm,
thing, right? So to me,
mm-hmm,
like, if you're there's a lot of this kind of thing that's now kind of feeling more nihilistic, right? It feels more kind of like money games, kind of at the end of the world. People are just going pumping money in a circle and for no reason,
yeah,
and they're just getting rich for no reason, and like, I think in a way, like, when you think about that, and then you think about attaching something like Thirsty, like Twitter, and you get these people, I won't mention any names, but they're, like, oh, I've got like a
mm-hmm,
million followers on Twitter, and I'm just gonna like pump this coin for no reason because,
yeah,
and then I'm gonna dump it, so that I get rich, like, you gotta like try to also think about what you're supporting and feeding, right? You also have to think about, like, is that a toxic element, and is that going to kind of really be more destructive than creative, right? Because if you think about something creative, then you're thinking about like, oh, okay, well, like if you look at something like Wi-Fi, like, you can say like, well, this is really infrastructure, and they're really genuinely building these atomic
mm-hmm,
components that are going to be, whether it's in that form or not, it's going to contribute to the future of the industry, because these are new fundamental mechanics of DeFi that are going to be plugged in. We're building new
yeah,
widgets that will kind of allow other widgets to kind of build on top, right? So to me, like, that's great and exciting and interesting. I mean, Andre just announced like an insurance project built inside of Wi-Fi. So like,
Yeah.
those are honorable, right? I feel like
Yeah.
if you're feeding Twitter trolls and you're feeding kind of these really copy clone systems, like it starts to feel toxic, and it starts to feel like you're not encouraging people to do, beneficial things.
I definitely agree with you. And yeah, the people that you're talking about, I met them in real life. Like
Oof,
you can pay them a certain amount and then they'll do the pumping for you.
oof.
And I know it's sad. And it's definitely not something that I'd recommend. And yeah, just see who's behind it, who and what you want to um, take to the next level, right? Where you want to see this DeFi movement going. Do you just want it to crash and burn? That's probably not what any of us want. So just don't, yeah, exactly. Don't feed the trolls.
Nice.
Just, yeah.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. So in coming back to kind of my Ether wallet, like, do you have any kind of things you're excited about in the product, or new features or new partnerships or anything that has happened recently that you think is worth noting?
Yeah, that's awesome. So we recently integrated Mu Connect, our DApp connection protocol, with Ren and Aave.
Great.
And yeah, it happened last week. I know, like over the weekend, Ren, the volume in Ren Bitcoin went like really high. And I'm like, honestly, like it's one of the projects that I genuinely like. They're doing a good thing, and they're creating a decentralized bridge between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we
Yeah.
can bring the Ren BTC to Ethereum, which is amazing. And the other project is Aave. So they're both using Mu Connect protocols, and it's amazing. So our like Mu wallet users, our mobile app users, can use their wallet to access any of these DeFi projects and either like convert your Bitcoin to ETH. Please do it. Bitcoin, yeah, it's there, but like come to Ethereum. That's where everything's happening.
That's
and
exciting.
and yeah, and Aave to do the lending and borrowing and all that as well. So that's like that happened last week, actually last Thursday. So and
Congratulations.
thank
That's
you.
great stuff. And those are
Yeah,
really fundamental utilities in the whole like bigger ecosystem.
yeah, exactly. And we have like a couple of other integrations coming out this week and next week as well. So we'll announce them as we go.
I'm excited. Yeah. So where do we
Thanks,
follow
Mikko.
this stuff? Is it like, obviously right now there's kind of Twitter funniness. So how do we keep track of what you're doing?
I know. So there's a weird issue going on with our Twitter. But anyway, you can still follow us on all of our other social media like LinkedIn, our Reddit forum,
Great.
our subreddit MyEtherWallet, and we have a Telegram channel. So if you go to myetherwallet.com and go all the way to the bottom, we have all of our social media channels down there, and we'd love to see you in any one of them. And we post all of our announcements, promotions, news, and everything in there.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, like full disclosure, I have no kind of commercial or financial interest in my Ether wallet, but I would say that like, I'm a longtime user, so like, I definitely tell people that this is a great resource, and you've always been kind of I would say an anchor tenant in the whole Ethereum community. So, I think it's been a great project so far.
Thanks, Mikko.
Awesome. Well, thanks. It's been great having you, and I have a great evening.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much for having me. Have a
Okay.
good one.
Bye.
Bye bye.